This is a moment in Jewish history. I am your host, Ben Bresky, and like many people, I grew up with a Bob Dylan album or two. At my childhood home, it was right on the shelf in between Peter, Paul and Mary and Joan Baez. But it wasn't until later that I discovered the song Neighborhood Bully, and I excitedly told an older friend that Bob Dylan had a song about Israel. Yeah, he said, but it's an anti-Israel song. No, it's not, I replied. He wants us to sympathize with the neighborhood bully, who has been unfairly accused of being a bully, but is in fact the underdog. Well, my friend didn't agree with me, but like many Bob Dylan songs, the lyrics don't really spell it out straightforward and are subject to interpretation. So I'll let you decide for yourself. I'm going to read you a portion of the lyrics, and then we'll hear from an interview with Dylan himself on the song. The neighborhood bully, he's just one man. His enemies say he's on their land. They've got him outnumbered about 1,000,000 to 1. He's got no place to escape to, no place to run. He knocked out a lynch mob. He was criticized. Old women condemned him, said he should apologize. They destroyed a bomb factory. No one was glad. The bombs were meant for him. He was supposed to feel bad. He's surrounded by pacifists who all want peace. They pray for it nightly. The bloodshed must cease. Every empire that's enslaved him has gone, Egypt and Rome, even the great Babylon. He's made a garden of paradise in the desert sand, in bed with nobody, under nobody's command. Now his holiest books have been trampled upon. No contract he signed was worth what it was written on. He took the crumbs of the world and turned it into wealth, took sickness and disease and turned it into health. He's the neighborhood bully. Born Robert Zimmerman to a Jewish family in Minnesota, Bob Dylan grew up to become a best-selling, award-winning songwriter. His songs such as Blowing in the Wind, The Times They Are A-Changing, and more have become classics. Books have been written on his lyrics and his connection to Judaism, and he's still recording and performing to this day. The song Neighborhood Bully comes from the 1983 album Infidels. You should note that neither Israel nor the Jewish people are explicitly mentioned. The back cover has a photo of Dylan in Jerusalem on a hilltop overlooking the Temple Mount, with the Old City clearly in the background. Bob Dylan has never been big on interviews and prefers to let his music speak for itself. For example, here's an excerpt from the now infamous interview with a Time magazine reporter from the 1960s.
Are you going to see the concert tonight? Yes. Are you going to hear it? Okay, you hear and see it. It's going to happen fast. And you're not going to get it all. And you might even hear the wrong words. And then afterwards, see, I won't be able to talk to you afterwards. I got nothing to say about these things I write. I mean, I just write them. I have nothing to say anything about them. I don't write them for any reason. There's no great message. I mean, if you want to tell other people that, go ahead and tell them. But I'm not going to have to answer to it. And they're just going to think, what's this Time magazine telling us? But you couldn't care less about that either.
Do you care about what you're saying?
How can I answer that if you got the nerve to ask me?
Well, then you
got a lot of nerve asking me a question like that. Do you ask the Beatles that?
But sometimes he does open up, such as in this 1984 interview with Rolling Stone magazine, conducted by Kurt Loder, who would later go on to fame as the anchor of MTV News. Question: your latest album, Infidels. Some critics have even detected a note of conservatism in some of the songs, even outright jingoism in Neighborhood Bully, in which the metaphorical subject is said to be just one land whose enemies say he's on their land. That's clearly a strong Zionist political statement, is it not? Dylan: you'd have to point that out to me. I'm not a political songwriter. Joe Hill was a political songwriter. Merle Travis wrote some political songs. Which Side Are You On is a political song. And Neighborhood Bully to me is not a political song, because if it were, it would fall into a certain political party. If you're talking about an Israeli political song, in Israel alone, there's maybe 20 political parties. Question: well, would it be fair to call that song a heartfelt statement of belief? Dylan: maybe it is, but just because somebody feels a certain way, you can't come around and stick some political party slogan on it. If you listen closely, it could really be about other things. The interview is lengthy and continues to talk about music, the 60s, society in the 80s, and the music scene. So now that we've cleared up that this song can be interpreted however one feels, let's take a look at Israel in the 1980s. Ronald Reagan was president of the United States and Menachem Begin was prime minister of Israel. Just a couple years prior, Israel had bombed the Osirak nuclear reactor in Iraq. A surprise attack on a nation led by Saddam Hussein, who vowed to destroy the Jewish state. Israel was roundly condemned by the United Nations and some American leaders as well. For a full exploration of that incident, you can check out my previous podcast on benbresky.substack.com. Then there was the First Lebanon War. Israeli farmers and kibbutzniks in the north were being attacked by the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, and other terrorists. An Israeli ambassador was shot in an assassination attempt. This sparked off Operation Peace for the Galilee, and surrounding Arab countries, with the assistance of the Soviet Union, began to master a new tactic, smearing Israel in the media. Dylan has been to Israel on multiple occasions. In 1983, the same year that Infidels came out, Dylan came to Israel to celebrate his son's bar mitzvah at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. He was photographed there wearing tefillin. He returned to Israel in 1987 for performances in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The opening act was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Here's an excerpt from an MTV special called Rock Israel.
I just walked through the bazaar and we went up Samuel the prophet's place, the old city of Jerusalem. It was really pretty interesting. It's worth the trip to come here. It's worth it just to identify with the place as more than something I've seen on the news or heard about in Bible stories.
Tom Petty and his band were given a tour of the Western Wall by Avraham Rosenblum and the Diaspora Yeshiva Band.
Are we in a modest dress?
No, it's okay. Okay, we are heading now to the Wailing Wall.
This is Avram, who is the lead singer, guitar player. Avram, Tom Petty.
How you doing?
What your tour guide won't tell you, I'll just, where the big mosque is, the Mosque of Omar. That's considered the holiest place in the universe to Jews. There's a rock directly underneath that, and that rock is considered the foundation stone of the universe. Some of our famous rabbis said that the whole process of music also began here. The process of holiness sets things apart. Decide one thing is holy, another thing is not. And in that process, so you create music the same way, because you pick the good notes from the bad notes, and you uplift them, and you make them special. So music is holy.
I believe that. Dylan also played on several Chabad telethons in the 1980s, one together with Tom Petty.
A man who I'm going to introduce now, who presidents have quoted at their inaugurations, who I think is one of the geniuses that we've produced in this country, not just in the field of music, but a poet. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a friend and a legend in our time, the one and only Bob Dylan.
This is Bob Dylan. I'd like to say that I think Chabad is a worthy organization helping people in need.
He returned to Israel in 1993 and performed in Tel Aviv, Beersheba, and Haifa. And in 2011, he performed at Ramat Gan Stadium, the country's largest venue. He did not perform Neighborhood Bully at any of these concerts. Perhaps the fans were looking forward to the classics. And in between, the famous Israeli singer Ariel Zilber, whose career started in the 1970s, recorded Biryon Hashchuna, his Hebrew cover version of Neighborhood Bully, from his 2005 album Annabelle. I had the opportunity to interview Ariel Zilber when the album came out. For details on that, you can check out my old interview with living legend Ariel Zilber. And so what do you think of Bob Dylan and his music? Send me an email at bbresky@gmail.com or check out my past shows and subscribe at benbresky.substack.com. This has been a moment in Jewish history. Thank you for listening, and shalom.